All right, Legacy Milwaukee Nation, as they say, Legacy Nation, but Milwaukee. Let's get started with today's life principle training. It's going to be a short one, but important, guys. This is really the key to all our success. So today I want to start out by sharing with you one of my favorite quotes of all time and get your thoughts on this. So this quote is by Og Mandino, and it says, "I will form good habits and become their slave." Think about that for a minute. I will form good habits and become their slave. This is out of a book called The Greatest Salesman Who Ever Lived, I believe. And it's a quote that's I've always thought about, okay? I will form good habits and become their slave. So what this is saying to us is we've got to form habits. We become slaves to habits no matter what. We become a slave to whatever our habit is. If we have the habit of smoking, we're a slave to that. If we drink too much, we're a slave to that habit. If we are addicted to pornography, we're a slave to that habit. It means we have to have it. So people become slaves to their habits. So we might as well form good habits and become their slave. And that's a key to, in this book, he goes on to explain a key to the greatest salesman who ever lived, becoming the greatest salesman who ever lived. It was that he formed these good habits and became their slave. So I want to invite all of us to do that so that we'll have more success in our sales and more success in our lives and whatever other ventures we do in the future. So let's talk about 3 habits that we can all do in this job to make us better people, and 3 habits that we can all do to make us more successful in all of our undertakings. So here's the 3 habits. These 3 habits will make you a sales powerhouse if you will form them and become their slave, okay? First habit is you need to become a student of the sport. All right, what this means is when I was competing in wrestling and coaching, my dad would always say, become a student of the sport, because the best wrestlers were constantly learning. That's what it means to become a student of the sport. They never were content with their past successes. They were constantly learning, and if they won by 5 points, they were learning how they could win by 10 points. If they won by 1 point, they were learning how they could win by 5 points. If they lost, they were learning how they could win. So they were always becoming a student of the sport. That's the same in business. That's the same in sales, especially. You've got to buy into the fact that you have to better yourself. People follow people they perceive as better leaders than themselves. They don't follow people they perceive as lesser leaders than themselves. So if you want to get people to follow you, if you want your customers to buy from you, you have to better yourself. They have to see you as knowing what you're doing. They have to see you as confident. And you can't do that without investing in yourself. You get paid what you're worth. You don't get paid what you think you're worth. Okay? So if you want to get paid more, you've got to make yourself worth more. You do this by developing a habit of being a student of the sport, developing a habit of constantly learning, constantly bettering yourself. So make time for personal development. Spend 1 hour a day reading sales books, reading personal development books, watching training videos, learning, watching videos on grid, watching training on the sales handbook, the solar handbook, whatever it is. But you've got to spend an hour in a day, invest in yourself, make this a habit, and become its slave. I start my day off with usually at least an hour of personal development. Some days I get busy and do a half hour, okay? All right, number 2, you only get paid to do 3 things, okay? So only do the things that you get paid to do. All right, if you can form this habit, you'll make a lot of money. So a lot of people, when they go to the office, they really only spend in an 8-hour day 2 hours actually working, because they talk to their friends, they check their emails, they check social media, they do the fun things. They do the fun tasks, not the tasks that pay, okay? So you've got to spend 80% of your time doing the tasks that pay, which is prospecting, presenting, and following up. These are the only 3 things you're paid for in sales. you're paid to prospect, you're paid to present, and you're paid to follow up. If you're not spending enough time with these, one of our future trainings will actually break this down and talk about how much time you should spend in each category. But if you're not spending enough time with these, then that's why you're not selling. All right? So you've got to form the habit of doing the things that pay you, which is prospect, present, and follow up. And if you're only doing 2 hours a day of those, you need to be doing 8 hours a day of those, okay? Or you're not going to see success. All right. Next is put in an honest week. Everybody in Milwaukee is either full-time or part-time. Full-time meaning I expect you to work 40 hours a week. Part-time meaning I expect you to work 20 hours a week. But if you're not putting in an honest day's work, if you're not putting in an honest week of effort, then you're not going to make any money. So these are the 3 habits we have got to make part of our culture. We have got to be constantly learning, constantly a student of the sport. We have to focus on only doing the things we get paid to do, which is prospect, present, and follow up. And we've got to put in an honest week's work. You've got to, at the start of the week, schedule out your 40 hours or your 20 hours or 15 if you're really slammed, okay? But if you can't put in at least 15 to 20 hours of work a week, or if you're not willing to, then let me know now, because I can't help you. You will not succeed, all right? And if you're asking yourself, well, I'm putting in 20 hours of work a week, or I'm putting in 40 hours of work a week, well, then ask yourself about these other habits. Are you spending that 20 or 40 hours doing the things that actually pay you, which is prospect, present, and follow up? Or are you doing the things that sound fun, like checking your emails, messing around with numbers, looking for an easier way, trying to reinvent the wheel, all these, sitting in your car, making phone calls to people that aren't going to buy, all these things that sound more fun than getting out of the doors and prospecting. If that's where you're spending your time, then that's one of the reasons you're not selling. Also, if you're not investing in yourself, if you're not making yourself a better salesman, a better leader, a better person, by devoting an hour a day to doing that, then you'll never be very good at this, okay? So these are the 3 habits that I invite you to develop. Form good habits and become their slave. So form these 3 habits and become their slave. And if we'll all do this, then Milwaukee will be off the charts, man. If we'll all just form these 3 habits and become their slave, if every day we start out our day by developing ourselves, by reading, by watching training videos, and then if we jump in and put in 4 hours or 8 hours, depending if we're full-time or part-time, and spend most of that prospecting and then a small portion of it following up, if we'll jump in and do that, and then if we'll put in that honest week's work, if we'll put in 20, 40 hours of work a week and just focus on the things that pay, prospect, present, and follow up. If we'll do that, then we're going to explode, man. We will have more sales, more consistent sales than any other market. We'll have cleaner sales than any other market. We'll have people coming to us. We will attract customers to us because they'll see us in their neighborhoods, okay? I'm just barely starting to attract customers to me, barely. It's going to get even better in Bayview because I've spent a month and a half in the same neighborhood knocking the same doors. Last night's sale came as a result of knocking a door for the 5th time and finally catching the person home, and I was able to get a same-day sale, okay? We've got to put in the time. We've got to form these 3 habits. We've got to be a student of the sport, always learning. We've got to only do the things we get paid to, present or prospect, present, and follow up. And we've got to put in an honest week's work, guys. You're kidding yourself. You're bullshitting yourself if you have knocked 10 minutes of doors and think that's enough, okay? You've got to put in the time. And I know it's hard when you're in a slump. I know it's hard when you are depressed, when things aren't going right. But we've got to form these 3 habits. That's our culture. That's our culture in Milwaukee. If we form these 3 habits, you'll put in the time even when the times are tough. You'll put in the time when the times are great so that you have less tough times, okay, as opposed to this solar coaster that most guys get on, which is where they put in some time, get lucky, get a few sales, and then don't put in enough time, and now all of a sudden they have no sales, they get depressed, they quit, okay? Don't be that guy. We're Milwaukee. Let's make this work, guys. We're going to explode Milwaukee. We're going to move into Illinois. We're going to take over the Midwest, and there's tons of leadership positions coming available for those that form good habits and become their slave. So that's the message for today, guys. Form all good habits will help you, but let's especially focus on these 3 habits, and let's become their slave. Have a good day. Hit the doors this afternoon, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.